We are, again, as Kip said, we are in 1 John chapter 5 is where we'll be, 1 John chapter 5. And actually, I'm just going to read the passage. We'll begin with that. It says this, John says this, "Everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves the Father loves his child as well. This is how we know that we love the children of God, by loving God and carrying out his commands." And this is kind of right here is where we'll anchor. This is where we will talk most about, is right here, is what John says next. "In fact, this is love for God, to keep his commands. And his commands are not burdensome. For everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. Who is it that overcomes the world? Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God." Amen, right, indeed. We, of course, know that John is the writer of these words. He was self-proclaimed as the one whom Jesus loved, the disciple whom Jesus loved. We know that he was one of Jesus' closest friends, closest disciples. He was one of the three that were invited into really special spaces in Jesus' life. And so I can't help but think that John is at least influenced by these words of Jesus that we're about to read, but it's very, very possible that these words of Jesus are echoing or maybe even literally in his mind as he was writing these words. Jesus says this in Matthew chapter 11, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This morning, I want to hone in on the idea of the restful burden, particularly highlighting 1 John 5 that I read, and his commands are not burdensome. For everyone born of God overcomes the world. Let me ask you, why did you wake up this morning? What got you up? What got you going? What got you, what got you to set your alarm last night if you did that? I know for me, one reason I woke up a little on the earlier side because I wanted to wake up before the three-headed beast known as Lincoln, Delaney, and Hudson were up. Parents in the room, especially parents of young kids, you know those hopeful hours, sometimes it's closer to 15 or 20 minutes. Oh, those are cherished moments before the kids wake up. That was one reason why I woke up. I wanted peace before the chaos of the day began. I woke up this morning because I wanted to come here. It's Sunday morning. I wanted to be in the house of God. I wanted to be with you. I wanted to be encouraged in my faith by you, by this community, by being here on Sunday morning. On a practical level, very practical level, I woke up this morning because I wanted to do my job. This is what I do. This is my job. This is how I provide for my family. And for me, for a lot of us, Sunday is our seventh day of the week. It's our rest day. Maybe it's our reset day. For me, my Sunday is my Monday. This is my job. This is my work. And when I get to come here and do my job, I hope this is true for you on your Mondays. There's something fulfilling and satisfying when you're doing what you feel like God is calling you to do. I got up out of this morning for all sorts of desires that were motivating me. What desires get you up in the morning? Desire is a huge motivator in our lives. And actually, it begins at a very young age. I referenced my kids about getting up before them. My wife and I have 3 kids. Our youngest is Hudson. He's 4. We've lived through the terrible 2s. We've lived through the terrible 3s. We think we're in the clear, but no one tells you about the fearsome 4s. Right? This little boy, all of a sudden, he's found his will. He's found his opinions. He is the boss of everyone. And Chelsea and I, we can't keep up with the amount of personalities that he has, literally, and emotions that he has, literally in a 3-minute span. Like, he'll go from crying to laughing to having these crazy eyes to he's like ready to attack whatever poor soul is next to him. We truly just don't know what's happening. Before I was a parent, before I had kids, I used to think that kids cried because they were sad. That is not true. They also cry because they're angry. What are they angry about? Many times it's because many times because they have a desire and I am stopping them from getting their desire. Desire is wired in us from a young age, that we want something. It gets us up in the morning. And desire is not bad. It's not a bad thing at all. But it becomes bad when desire is no longer under our control. When we are no longer steering our desires, but our desires are steering us. So many of us were driven by desire. We are, why do you wake up in the morning? Think about some of the most basic emotions that we have. Many of them come from desire. When you don't get what you want, the emotion that I have is I'm sad or I'm disappointed. When I do get what I want, my emotion is happy. I'm happy. When someone prevents me from getting what I want, I'm angry. When I think I might not get what I want in the future, I'm anxious. I have anxiety. When you are driven by your desires, when we are driven by our desires, it's only a matter of time before we break down. Because our desires keep growing. Our desires keep getting bigger. And we believe this lie that if we get more, if we just keep filling this infinite pit of desire with finite things. We keep filling it up with career, with job, with whatever it is, relationships, a significant other, financial freedom, whatever it is, we keep filling it up. We think we'll get there. We'll think we got it. When we're driven by our desire, it's only a matter of time before we break down. And the desire doesn't stop. The desire continues to grow. Many of us in this room, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You are in a place, some of us are in a place in your life where you have gotten what you wanted and you've realized it's not at all what you thought it would be. For some of us in this room, our 15-year-old self would be proud of the person that we are today. But here you are today saying, I just haven't found what I'm looking for yet. I'm just not there yet. Some of us in this room are in a better financial place than we were 10, 15, 20 years ago. But that murmur in our soul of, I need more. I'm not quite there yet. I'm not there yet. I haven't found what I'm looking for is still humming, just there, present in our bodies. Solomon says this in Ecclesiastes chapter 1. He says, all things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. The eye is not satisfied with seeing. The ear is not satisfied, even though it's full of hearing. What's he saying? The more I see in life, the more I get in life, the more that I consume, it's never fulfilling. It's just this beast that just keeps growing. It's like that analogy of the carrot in front of the horse. No matter how much, on a stick of course, no matter how much the horse exerts energy, no matter how fast the horse tries to run and goes, it will never get the carrot. Desire, when we're driven by it, leads to breakdown. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling restless? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling depressed? Are you feeling like you're just not quite there yet? Because we're finite and desire is infinite, the result is restlessness. I'm finite, you're finite, but desire grows and grows and grows, and it leaves us in a state of dissatisfaction. Yet what's happening is that when our desires are steering us, it leaves us distracted, it leaves us confused, it leaves us disenfranchised, and it leaves us breaking down. And we constantly sacrifice the present for the future. I know it's going to be worth it, when I get there. I know that once I get there, I'll feel the peace I've been looking for. I know once I arrive to this place in life, whatever place in life that looks like for you, whatever that looks like, once I get there, then I will arrive. Is that really the mantra for our life? That peace is over there? That many, and that we're not, that we've got to get there before we can experience the peace and satisfaction and restfulness that Jesus offers for us. Is that really what we're doing? That we're not fully present in the moment, but we're constantly looking ahead and just searching for that peace and fulfillment. And that's how I often live my life. I know for me, well, I might be here right now. My mind is a million different places. My mind actually right now is thinking about how is the United States doing in Serbia in men's basketball. That's one thing that's going through my mind right now. Right? Some of us, we might be thinking about the Olympic ceremonies last night or 2 nights ago, whatever that was. And I'm not going to go there, actually. That was something. I'm not going to go there. But some of us might be thinking about that. I know that we leave for camping. We go to Detroit Lake, and so very soon here. And I know I've got to get the kids ready. We've got to pack things. I got to prepare food. I bought this like mobile grill because there's a fire ban, and so I need to unbox it and figure out how it works. My mind is a million different places. For some of us, we're thinking about our Monday. Like, oh man, there's things I got to do. Actually, for the parents in the room, we know we've got Camp Tillicum on Monday. Got Camp Tillicum tomorrow. So you might be thinking about, oh man, is my kid ready to go? Do I have what they need in order to be ready for Monday? Our minds go all sorts of places. But the power is here. The power is right now, in this moment. Peace is attainable here and now. Peace is not attainable in the future. Peace is not attainable then. Peace is attainable here and now. Think about it. If you're just constantly thinking that peace is there, you'll never actually get there. You'll just be restless. Are you restless? Are you weary? Are you anxious? Are you depressed? Are you overwhelmed? I believe Jesus would counsel us today, and say, you know what you should do? Take all of your desire and put it onto him. Take what feels that bottomless pit that you keep pouring into, that we keep pouring into, take that and put it on to him. St. Augustine says this. He says, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you." It's almost as if John and Jesus, John in 1 John chapter 5 and Jesus in Matthew 11, takes a moment to pastor our souls, to recognize that there's a burden on our shoulders, to recognize that, to use the language in Matthew 11, we've been yoked to something that was never meant to fulfill us. The desires of this world have been wired into our being from the moment we enter this world. It's been reinforced by culture. And John takes a moment to remind us what our true north is: fulfillment in Jesus. 4 things from Matthew chapter 11 that I think will help us unlock really restfulness. If you're in a place where you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're in a place where you're feeling weary, if you're in a place where you're feeling just bogged down and beat down, 4 things that I think Jesus gives us to offer that restfulness in our lives. If you're not in that place right now, I encourage you to tuck this away, because we all know that time is coming. We've all been there where we're just burdened and beat down. So in Matthew chapter 11, 4 things. Jesus begins and says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." The first word that I want to highlight that Jesus says, the word come. The word come. This is good news for us, by the way. Jesus here gives us an invitation, a great invitation. Hey, are you stressed? Hey, are you depressed? Hey, are you burned out? Are you feeling these things? Come to me. You're invited into my presence. All you have to do is respond. All you have to do is respond to his invitation. My wife and I, we love throwing big birthday parties, just big birthday parties for our kids. For Lincoln's 7th birthday, I think it was last year. It might have been 2 years ago, I forget. But Lincoln wanted a Godzilla vs. King Kong themed birthday party. And so we went to the nines on it. I purchased adult inflatable Godzilla and King Kong adult inflatable suits. And with the idea that there'd be an epic fight during this birthday party between Godzilla and King Kong, of course. We had all the kids build these like pretend cities out of cardboard boxes so that Godzilla and King Kong would come through and destroy them. Like we went crazy with it. And so we prepared the party. We get to the day, and I realize, I'm like, oh no, I haven't invited someone to be King Kong and Godzilla. Like I have these inflatables, but I haven't asked anybody to actually step into them. And so we asked actually Travis Spear. He's a member of our church. I don't think Carmen and Travis are here this morning, but we asked Travis Spear to be one, and then also a dad that was one of the dads of one of the kids. And so anyways, take a look at this. No. Travis, can you not see?
I can't see.
Oh, you can't? Okay.
I'm just hanging out, bro. I can't see anything.
It was crazy. The kids would actually start taking the. If I showed the entire clip, I tell one of the kids, "Oh, stop throwing the boxes," because they would grab the boxes that were the cities and start chucking them at Godzilla and King Kong, and they were getting hurt. The corners of the box would hit them in the head and whatnot. But I show that because it doesn't matter how much prep that we put into it. It doesn't matter how much money that I spent on the party or whatever. If Travis and my friend Ted didn't respond to the invite to be Godzilla and King Kong, the joy experienced by the kids, and I would go as far as to say the joy experienced by Travis and Ted, it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have been the same. I know it's a silly example, but there's no power if you don't respond. The invitation's there, but the peace is in responding to the invitation. What's your role? Respond. Respond to the invitation into what God is calling you into. Do you have people in your life that you're hoping, that you're praying will respond to your invitation? Maybe to church, maybe to Sunday morning, maybe a response to your invitation into your discipleship community, maybe a response to your invitation just simply to talk about Jesus, just to start that conversation going. If I could just get them to accept this invitation, if I could just get them to respond, if I could just get them to be open to it, I know their life would be changed. I know if they could just get into the presence of Jesus, their life would look so different, their life would be changed. I had a moment like that a few years ago. I was playing basketball, and me and someone, we were waiting for our turn to play, and so of course we just talking shop, and he asks me what I do for a living, and I say, oh, I'm part of a pastoral team of a church, and he was like, oh my gosh, I've never met a pastor before. I'd love to know, what do you do with your days? How does your job work? And the conversation then started to spiral into faith, or not spiral, but evolved into faith. This is a good thing. It was a good conversation. I realized spiral has a very different connotation, but the conversation evolved into faith and spirituality, and I realized there was an opportunity. I realized there was a moment where I could invite him to church, and so I said, "Oh man, you should come on Sunday. You could actually see what church is like if you come." And he responded to me, and he said this. He says, "Oh, Jonathan, if I attended your church would burn down. There's no way, there's no way I'd be accepted. There's no way I would go there. And of course, I'm like, no, of course, no, come. I invited him in, but what does he mean by that? And I'm sure you've had experiences like this before. What do people mean by that when they say something like that? What they mean is, I'm not worthy to be in church. I don't belong in a faith gathering. Here's what I think he's really getting at. If you really knew the real me, if you really knew what I did, if you really knew what I'm doing, if you really knew what I want to do, you wouldn't be inviting me. No way. But Jesus, of course, would say, you're the exact person I want in my presence. Because the broken thinking is, that I think a lot of us fall into, is that I need to clean myself up. I need to quit doing X, Y, or Z, And once I get myself right, then I can really step into the invitation that God has for me. Then I can do what God is calling me to do. Then, whatever that invitation is, I got to do these things first. Then I can respond. But Jesus would say, you've got the order out of order. You can't clean yourself up. You come to me first. Jesus is the one that does the work. Jesus is the one that does the work in your life. Jesus is the one who sets us on the right path. This is the invitation of God to come to him. Your job is to respond. His job is to repair. Your job is to respond. God's job is to repair. Come. He'll clean you up. Come. He'll fix things. Come. He will give you rest. You can lay down the striving and trying to prove yourself and trying to make yourself right before entering the presence of God. No. The invitation is to come to me. And one more thought on this before we move on, because I know I've got three more thoughts. One more. This is more than just like, the thing I love about this is more than self-help. Like a lot of 7 ways to live stress-free that you would find maybe in the Barnes & Noble, aisle or something. Nothing against self-help books. I'm a big fan of Atomic Habits and, those kind of books. I love it. But this is very different than that. Self-help is always an emphasis on a list of things to do. Here are the 23 things you need to do to achieve greatness or whatever it is, right? Jesus' emphasis is very different than the emphasis of the world. Jesus' emphasis is come to me. The world offers a list of things to do. Other religions offer a list of things to do before you can enter into the presence of God. Jesus says, no. Come to me. The second thing he says, I'll read it again. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. The second word that I want to emphasize is take. Take. I'm not sure if you know what a yoke is. You probably do, but I didn't. It's not something that's in my vernacular. It's not something that I know much about. It's not something that's super common today. But a yoke is something that you put on two animals. This is actually the part that I didn't know about. You put a yoke on two animals, and those two animals work together to lighten the load and to pull the whatever they're pulling. I have no background in that kind of stuff. But whatever they're pulling, a tractor, a wagon, whatever they're pulling, right? A plow. I think someone said a plow, yes. The two animals, they put a wooden yoke on their necks, and they work together. Anyways, for the hearers 2,000 years ago, this would be a very common thing. Two animals working together, yoked together, doing something, right? And the original hearers would say to themselves, hold on, Jesus. You're inviting me into more work? Like this is take your yoke. I don't want more work, and actually some of us might be thinking the same thing. I've got enough to do. My job is overwhelming. I've got enough to do. My family is overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed already. I don't need more to do, Jonathan. Actually, the reason why I'm restless is because of how much I'm already doing. I don't want another job. And so what is Jesus saying here? What is the work that Jesus is talking about? In John chapter 6, Jesus says this. This is the work of God, that you believe in him. Part of the work that we do of putting on the yoke of Jesus is believing in Jesus. And Jesus continues in John 15, and Jesus says, abide in me. What is our work as followers of Jesus? What is our work when we put on his yoke? It's to believe and it's to abide. I believe what Jesus said, I believe what Jesus did, and I'm abiding in him. I'm walking step in line with that. I am connected to that. I am taking his yoke, and I am yoking my life up next to his. And I believe he has me on mission. I believe he has a purpose for my life. And together, he will lead me to where he wants to take me. Many years ago, I had broken my phone screen. And like I dropped my phone and my phone screen shattered. And so I didn't have the phone super long, or at least I didn't think it was super long. So I went into the AT&T store to see if it was under warranty still. And so I get there and I show him my phone. He's like, oh, wow, that's a pretty broken phone. Let's see what we can do for you. And it turns out I had like 8 or 9 days left on the warranty. And I was like, oh, yeah, you guys are all sensing my relief. Yes. I was like, sweet. And so he's like, we'll take care of you. Actually, what we're going to do is, because, iPhones tend to release a new phone every year or so. And so since I was so close to the end of the warranty and a new phone was out already, he said, you know what we're going to do? Instead of just replacing your old phone, we're going to go ahead and give you an upgrade. We're going to give you a new phone. Oh, my gosh, yes, this is great. And so like 4 or 5 hours later, you've been through this. Okay, cool. Insane amount of time just to give me a new phone. Like, just give it to me and I'm good to go. But like 4 or 5 hours later, I get my new phone. And so I go to grab my new phone and I go to take my old phone. I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. And I go to step away and he goes, oh, Jonathan, hold on. You can't take the old phone with you. Like it's not, in order to get the new phone, you have to leave the old phone. In order to take this new phone that we're giving you, we are going to go ahead and take the old phone. And you probably already see where I'm going with this. When we yoke ourselves up to Jesus, we can't take the old yoke with us. We can't take the old with us. The cross of Jesus was the great exchange of yokes, where Jesus said, I'm going to take your yoke of restlessness. I'm going to take your yoke of shame. I'm going to take your yoke of guilt and condemnation. I'm going to take your yoke of being weary and overwhelmed, and I'm going to give you my yoke. And my yoke is easy. My burden is light. But here's the catch. You can't take the old one with you. If you want the new, you have to leave the old. You have to take what he has for you. And what are we taking? It's believe and abide. I believe you, Jesus. I believe you're the one. I believe you are who you say you are. I'm abiding in you. I'm walking step by step. I want this new yoke. And maybe you're here today and you're in this place where you feel like I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I feel this restlessness. I would propose possibly, maybe the Spirit might be leading you that possibly there's still some old yoke left in your life. That you're still yoked to an old way of doing things. That you're still yoked to this feeling of I've got to be the one to make it happen. I've got to be the one to provide. I've got to be the one to make it happen. I've got to strive and make it work. The yoke of Jesus is light. The yoke of Jesus is easy. The burden is light. That's take. Number 3, and we're almost done here. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. The third one is learn. This word learn indicates to me that it's a bit of a process. It's not like for me, learning for me in school, or learning for me, I guess, as a scholar, that Kip said. That's not, I'm not a scholar. I have a degree. But it's a process. It's a process. Salvation, it's a moment. Justification, moment. But this process of sanctification, becoming like Jesus, it's a lifetime of learning. It's a lifetime of growing. It's this process where every single day it's putting on his yoke. While his yoke is easy and his burden is light, it's still a yoke. It's still a yoke. Every single day, every single moment, looking to your side and seeing your yoke partner, Jesus, guiding you, steering you, empowering you, giving you the words to speak in moments, taking over for you when you're too weary, watching his calmness, watching his gentleness, watching and learning from his humility, his patience, his grace. When I read the Gospels, all the miracles that Jesus performed, or a lot of the miracles that Jesus performed, if it were me, I would feel like they're interruptions, like when the woman kind of grabs Jesus by his robe and he turns around and he's headed somewhere. For me, and then heals her of a physical condition. For me, that would be an interruption. Like I'm Mr. Type A. I've got a calendar. I want to know what's coming up. I have my day blocked out. I have my weeks blocked out. Like I have, and anything that kind of gets in the way is an interruption to me. And what's so interesting for Jesus is he doesn't perceive these moments as interruptions. It's almost as if he perceives these moments as invitations. And I believe that when watching Jesus in the Gospels, that he's always operating from a place of rest. You never see him in a hurry. You never see Jesus sprinting, right? He's never panicked. You know, he's not concerned with being late. I suppose he's the creator of time, and so that's kind of he wins that one. But he's not bothered. He's not bothered. For me, I would be so bothered by these. For me, it feels like interruptions. But Jesus operates as if they're invitations. Jesus doesn't react, he responds. And I believe it's because when you're restless, you react. When you're restless, you react. And you know what a reaction is. It's when you snap at someone, right? It's when you're not in control and you just kind of allow your desire to steer, and you allow your desire to control, and you just snap, right? But when you're rested, you respond. Response is when you have the ability to choose. When you're above the noise, when you're above the chaos, you know, you're not behaving according to your desires and your feelings. You have the ability to have them under control and in reign and in the yoke of Jesus, and you respond. And if you're a parent, or if you're married, or if you've been in any relationship ever, you know exactly what I mean. Some of my worst moments are when I'm reacting. Not because of what my kids or my wife or my closest friends did or said, but because I'm in a place of restlessness. And you know who gets hurt? They do, every time. Why is the price my family pays? Why is that the price my family pays? Because I'm restless. Because I haven't slept enough. Because I'm not taking a moment in the presence of Jesus to respond rather than to react. I'm a father and I'm a husband, and so I can relate to this very closely as a father and husband. Some of the greatest pain I've caused in my family is because of me as the father reacting rather than responding. And I know many of us, particularly the fathers in the room, you know what I'm talking about. And this is true for everyone, but just as a father myself, this is what I relate to. Just because I haven't slept enough? Anyways, God has placed you in situations where he wants you to respond in his spirit and in his will. You may think it's an interruption in your life, but if you would rest in him, if you would learn from him, you would respond and see these interruptions as an invitation for a miracle to take place. Watch how the Message translation puts this verse. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. How many of us could use some more freely and lightly in our lives? Learning the unforced rhythms of his grace. The last word, and this is where we'll end, is find. Is find. It says this. That's not quite the passage that I wanted to read. It says this. Matthew 11. Could you put Matthew 11 up on the screen, Jasid? Not the Message translation, just the regular translation, if I have it. There it is. Thank you. There it is. And you, so it says this, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. If you come to Jesus, if you take the new yoke and get rid of the old yoke, if you learn from his life, the result is you're going to find what you're looking for. If you think you know what you're looking for, if only a lot of times we think we know what we're looking for. If only I can get this job, if only I can have this career, if only I can have this relationship, if only I can be in this financial place, if only I could get there, then I'd have satisfaction. But it's not true. And anyone who's lived for any length of time knows that that's not true. What you've been looking for this whole time is Jesus. What you've been looking for is soul rest in him. But the fact that it says find makes me think it's not always obvious. It's not like he just boop, plants it in front of you. In fact, watch how Hebrews chapter 4 says it, and that's the verse, Jaseed. If you deleted that verse, that's okay. But I'll read it here. It says this, there remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their works, just as God did from his. And this is where the author of Hebrews says, he says, let us therefore make every effort to enter that rest. The author of Hebrews writes, let us therefore make every effort to enter that rest. Now we're getting into something to do. Now we're at this place. The scripture tells me that if I'm ever going to find true rest, it's going to require effort on my part. It's going to take some intentionality. It's going to take daily taking the old yoke and putting on the new yoke in Jesus. It's going to take a discipline. Jesus is saying, as we get our lives into margin, as we get our lives under control, then we'll begin to have the peace in our mind, peace in our body, peace for our soul. The scripture says to make every effort to find that rest. I moved up here in 2005. I came from California. I'm a Californian transplant. Please don't judge me for that. Actually, I would say half my life has been in Oregon and California, so that doesn't make me a true Oregonian, but I like to think so. I think it justifies me as an Oregonian. But in 2005 is when I moved up here. My family and I wasn't married at the time. My family and I moved into this little cottage in Lake Oswego. I was taking classes, so very close to here actually. I was taking classes at PCC Sylvania at the time. And I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea what I was doing. This was before the time of iPhones and maps just right there on your hand, right there. I was trying to get around with like a treasure map, right? Like that's how I would get around. Or if you remember the days of MapQuest, printing out, your directions and stuff like that. Anyways, I didn't need the directions, of course. And so I was like, I can figure this out. And so I remember the direction that I would take, and I actually have a map of it on the screen. I remember the direction that I would take is, I lived right down there on Bryant Road, and in order to get to PCC Sylvania, I don't know why I did this, but I went through Childs Road. That's the direction I went. Maybe it was ingrained in me from being from California to never take highways, but I took back roads, and so I would go up 43 and then, take the left up there in Lake Oswego and pass the high school and make it up to PCC Sylvania. That would be the direction I'd go. And if you're looking at the map, you quickly realize what my problem was, right? It's like a 30-minute drive. And I remember I was talking to someone, and I was like, they were over at my house. I was like, oh, shoot, I got to go. I'm going to be late for class. It's like a 30-minute drive. And he looks at me, and he says, Jonathan, there's a better way, right? And he goes on to show me the better way, and it was this, of course, I don't need to show you this, but it was the straight shot, right? There was a better way of doing things. I'll never forget that, though. Someone told me, there's a better way, right? And I wonder, could it be that there are times that we are allowing our desires to steer rather than us steer our desires? Could it be that maybe when we allow our desires to steer, the route it's taking us on is the route of this world, is the route that leads us to restlessness. It's the route that leads me to an extra 30-minute drive. Is it the route that leads us to being weary and overwhelmed? Could it be that we've been listening to the advice and the counsel of the world system? And could it be that if we took the counsel of the gospel, if we took the counsel of Jesus to come to him, that we would discover that there is a better way that leads us to real rest. That we could find ourselves finally saying, I finally found what I'm looking for. Contentment, peace, the unforced rhythms of grace. And what I want to do to close is I want to read Matthew chapter 11 again in the Message translation. Thank you, Jasid. What I want to do is I want to prepare ourselves for communion. And so why don't we all stand? And if we could, let's go ahead and take the cup. Thank you, Summer. Appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and take the cup. And if you want, you can prepare the bread is what we'll take first. But before we take communion, what I want to do is I want to reread Matthew chapter 11, verses 23 through 28. And if you're here and you're in a place where you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling burdened, you're feeling weary, I want you to allow these words of Jesus to wash over you, to receive these words as if he's speaking them directly to you here and now. And then we'll take communion. Jesus says this, are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me, work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the cross. We thank you for your body broken for us. That you forgave us of our sin, and in the forgiveness of our sin, took the burden, took the yoke of slavery to sin off of our necks, and put it on a wooden cross. Thank you for conquering the grave, defeating death, so that we can be free. Let's go ahead and take the bread together. And we can open the juice now. Let's pray. Father, and you didn't just take the yoke of slavery to sin off of our necks, but you gave us a new one, the new one in your covenant. And we thank you for the blood spilled on the cross for the forgiveness of our sins, so that we can step into this new covenant, so that we can take your yoke and put it on us. Because your yoke is easy and your burden is light. Father, reveal to us the next steps that we can be taking so that we can learn the unforced rhythms of your grace. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's go ahead and take the